exactly this sort of forum in order to debate his views, because he was the one major political figure in England who was arguing for increased military expenditure in the face of the rise of the Nazi threat. He was shouted down at these self-same forums by peaceniks, by people who didn't want war at any cost whatsoever.
So the communist left in England has long been active, and they try to stop Churchill from rebuilding the military. Had he not succeeded, Britain would have fallen to Germany.
Exactly. Exactly. You are his ideological successor, in other words.
That's amazing. Just amazing. Well, the question is, should I go? Now, of course, I can't go legally, physically, because Gordon Brown, who released the Lockerbie bomber, has imprisoned Michael Savage, in a sense, put up a wall. You know, where's the left screaming, Mr. President, tear down that wall? What is Gordon Brown so afraid of, by the way? What is it that I could say that would frighten him so much? The answer is, he is controlled like a puppet by fascist dictatorships in the Middle East, in my opinion. But let's get down to this. They want me to debate against political correctness. This House believes political correctness is sane and necessary. And we would be delighted if you were available to speak in opposition of the motion. How can you defend political correctness? What are the arguments in favor of controlling speech? Well, I guess you'd have to go to Kim Jong-il in North Korea to get that answer, wouldn't you, Beowulf?
You absolutely would. I mean, this is a method that has been used by people within democracies to a certain extent, but also by tyrants also who want to control the language, because changing language is one of the key ways they claim to changing society for the better. But it's also
yes, but the American left, which has imposed so-called political correctness on America and on Britain, has basically stolen free speech from most of the citizenry. They have, in fact, stolen free speech in the name of free speech. The left are fascists at their core. Well, the big news is the Cambridge Union Society, Cambridge, England, has invited a banned talk show host, Michael Savage, to come to England, either in person or by video link, to debate. Isn't it amazing, Beowulf, that I'm not permitted to debate my situation on Fox News? Let's put aside the others. We know what to expect from them. Don't you think it's odd that Fox News is not embarrassed by their position?
And what's amazing is that they haven't even been bold enough to have proclaimed it to the world that they refuse to have you on. They simply ignore you, refuse to invite you. At least England, put it forward publicly.
Well, Beowulf, should I do this? I mean, what kind of traps do you think they're going to set for me over there?
Well, I mean, they're going to have a whole cadre of arguments against you. They're going to say that they're trying to change society for the better with political correctness.
Well, let's pause at that. Yes, they'll say that political correctness keeps people from saying violent things and vile things, and it keeps people peaceful. Well, let's go to Cuba, where political correctness is the norm. Castro assassinated his enemies in the beginning, imprisoned his enemies for over 30 years, and right now the people live in a prison camp where if they say anything against Castro or the regime, the communist regime in Cuba, they are rounded up by the secret police. That's exactly what political correctness is, Beowulf.
That's right. And what starts as political correctness in the name of keeping things safe and sane, so to speak, ends up often gravitating towards a dictatorship, towards a form of fascism.
Well, let me just conclude this now by saying the following. Our First Amendment was written to protect offensive speech, not polite speech. Polite speech does not need the First Amendment. My kind of speech was written specifically because of the First Amendment. So if you don't like Michael Savage, you may as well go to the U.S. Constitution and put an X through the First Amendment. And while you're at it, put an X through the Second Amendment and the Third Amendment. You may as well put an X through the whole Bill of Rights, because that's what these left-wing vermin are doing to us. And damn it, I am going to speak before the Cambridge Union, and I will do it by video link, and I will put Gordon Brown on notice that I will debate him anytime, anywhere, in any place. How could I say no to a debating society that has invited Ronald Reagan, Winston Churchill, Teddy Roosevelt, and Nobel Peace Prize winner Henry Kissinger? In fact, I should win the Nobel Peace Prize for fighting for free speech for all of the West, Beowulf. That's my final statement. I deserve a Nobel Peace Prize.
And this is something that transcends ideology. It doesn't matter whether you're on the left or the right. This is an issue of free speech. This is an issue. Political correctness is something that curtails speech of all political persuasions. It doesn't matter what side of the spectrum you're on. This is an effrontery to your freedoms.
I will, again, today, focus on the Cambridge Union Society and ask the audience, as we've been doing now, should I go to Cambridge and do this?
Savage. With Michael Savage, I can relate to him.
The Savage Nation. Weekday afternoons 3 to 7. Talk 910. KNEW.
As I've been telling you all day today, I have been invited to the oldest debating society in the world in England, the Cambridge Debating Society, at the Cambridge Union. But Prime Minister Gordon Brown of the very same nation still bars me from the United Kingdom. This is the same Gordon Brown who did nothing while the Lockerbie bomber was released to a hero's welcome in Libya. Here is Brown again, continuing to claim that no deal was made with Gaddafi.
Our interest throughout has been to strengthen the coalition against international terrorism. I made it clear that for us there was never a linkage between any other issue and the Scottish Government's own decision about Megrahi's future. I respect the right of Scottish ministers to make the decision and the decision, but on our part there was no conspiracy, no cover-up, no double-dealing, no deal on oil, no attempt to instruct Scottish ministers, no private assurances by me to Colonel Gaddafi. We were absolutely clear throughout with the Libyans and everyone else that this was a decision for the Scottish Government.
Well, I don't believe him. Now, here's one of the few good men in England, David Cameron, of the Conservative side, calling the situation exactly what it is, double dealing.
The double dealing is quite straightforward. The accusation is that they said one thing to the Libyans, we don't want this man to die in prison, and yet the British government had pretty consistently said to the Americans, and remember, many, many Americans died on that Pan Am flight and were murdered on that Pan Am flight, said to the Americans that this man would serve his sentence in Scotland. That's why there's such a large international and diplomatic row, and that's why President Obama has expressed his opinion, saying the release of this man was wrong, and many others around the world have expressed their opinion, but we're still waiting for the British Prime Minister to be straight with the British people and say what he thinks about the release. I'm very clear. I think it was wrong. I think that man should be in prison.
At least there's someone in that country in politics who seems to get it. Listen to him again.
Many of the victims feel very badly let down. I think one of our most important allies, America, feels badly let down. I think Britain's reputation is suffering from this. And I think, as you say, there are complexities in this, and the way to deal with that is to have a brief inquiry, led, I would argue, by a former permanent secretary, to look at all of the paperwork, all of the meetings, all of the things that were said, and to produce a short report so we can see what the British government has been doing in our name. That needs to be done. This has now been dragging on for week after week. I think the government's been incompetent in dealing with it. They need to grip it. They need to announce that inquiry and get it underway.
They've not only let America down, they've let all of humanity down by denying the humanity of the Lockerbie victims for an oil deal and by locking Michael Savage out of England. Go read Banned in Britain on michaelsavage.com. You'll see what the story's all about. Okay, moving on. We're speaking with a man from WOR land in New York. George, so you grew up a white guy in Hell's Kitchen, you said, or near Chinatown?
Chinatown, in Chinatown.
Are you Italian?
No, sir.
No, because that's right where Little Italy meets Chinatown on what, Canal Street?
Yeah, I was over a little more west by Henry and Pike.
All right, so how did your family wind up living in what's called Chinatown?
Well, my parents, I'm first generation American. My parents immigrated from Germany just after the war, and they had to take anything.
You mean World War which, 1 or 2?
Two.
So you were born in 46, 47?
47.
Oh, so you're a kid born there. They took whatever they could get, right?
Exactly.
So how did you fit in being born then with Chinese kids? Did they accept you?
Absolutely. My best friend was a Chinese, well, one of my best friends was a Chinese family who lived on the same floor in the sixth-floor walk-up tenement.
Right. What I'm getting at by your story is that by the liberal stories today, you should have hated each other. That till they came along with the Great Society, every race hated each other till the white liberal showed up, when the exact opposite is true. The races got along better until the white liberal came along and turned races against each other.
That's right. We had a mixed neighborhood. We had Italians, we had Jews, Germans, Chinese, you name it, they were there. And everybody got along. Everybody's mother watched everybody else's kid. There was a
Isn't that amazing? Well, there's a piece of American history, George, that needs to be written about to a great extent, because the liars who tell you that America was a land of hatred till they came along, the communist white man, till a communist white man came along, that we were living in hell in America.
No. I won't agree with that. And the only other reason, I've been listening to you for over 10 years, and right now talking to you is almost as good as sex, okay?
Oh, well, please, this is a family show, George. I didn't know you were going to go there.
Well, anyway, you love dogs. I've had dogs since I was 7 years old. And
I do. Have you read my book, Psychological Nudity?
No, I've been trying to get it, but right now...
I'm going to send you a free copy, particularly the story, Tippy dies and thrown in a garbage truck. When your dog died when you were a kid, did they throw him in a garbage truck like Tippy?
No, sir. We had a funeral attendance of 15 people, and the vet threw everybody out of the office.
You know, it's amazing. So I came from a very unusual...